That being said, let's call the meeting to order. Okay? And do we have declarations of conflict of interest? Any?
No, I don't have any.
No,
Nothing?
no,
Okay. And do we have approval for the minutes of last meeting? I'm looking at it here. Yeah. Do we have approval for the minutes? I approve.
Who first? Who? Okay.
I approve.
Okay.
moved by
And-
Margaret. I need a seconder, Ryan.
Okay.
I second it, Sharon.
Thanks, Sharon.
Okay. And then approval for the minutes of tonight.
Oh, I'm writing them tonight again, Joanne, so I won't be talking too much.
Okay.
So you're
Okay.
going to take notes, Joanne?
Yes,
Okay, perfect.
thanks.
And do we have approval for the minutes tonight, Dan? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. The minutes have been approved. Okay. Doesn't look like we have much. So reporting on department liaisons. Do we have a report from Public Works?
Sorry, that's me. Well, I did try to contact Scott, and as of now, there's been no response. So no, I guess I don't.
Okay, Sharon, and I went through Doug Dumay, who's sort of administration type person. He has a title, and he said that Scott had responded to the invitation for tonight. I got that email yesterday saying that because of all the special meetings and the council meetings, he could meet with us in April. And you have to understand, maybe everybody knows this, but whenever there's a council meeting, all the managers of the departments have to attend because they become the resource for any questions that a counselor might have. So I can appreciate that position, and I know there have been a lot of council meetings. And anyway, nevertheless, even if we had him here tonight, he couldn't appear because council's taking place and he would have to be here. So I had asked Doug to send him an invitation for our April meeting. I think it's April the 19th. I don't remember the exact date, but I did. And so Doug had sent that, and Doug said, whoever is doing the administration for the task force will, do a follow-up, and I'll just keep it in my head to do a reminder there. And you also asked, or I asked, if we could have Ramona consider tonight, and same thing. She couldn't, she wrote back and said she couldn't attend tonight because the council meeting, she wrote this yesterday afternoon. They knew that council was canceled and rescheduled for tonight, probably because of the storm. Anyway, Ramona also said that bike week is being planned. Usually it's in June, so she'd like to bring those plans to us and maybe for our input and whatever in May. So I went ahead and I booked Ramona, and she works with another sustainable officer by the name of Jess Brown. And so Doug Dumay sent the invitation to Ramona and to Jess to attend our May 17th meeting.
Okay, I just have a question about Public Works. Maybe somebody can help me with that. So am I contacting the right person, Scott Adams, or is there another person I could be contacting in that department?
Nope, you're contacting the right person. And in his last email, Scott asked me whenever I'm writing to Public Works, not to write to anybody else, but to him exclusively. And that had to do with the audit of the facilities owned by the city in terms of the accessibility. And the name I'd been given by Terry Bernard was Stephen McFadgen. And Stephen, remember Stephen had written back and said that an audit was done 4 years ago. And so I wrote to Stephen and I copied it to Scott and said that the task force would like an audit done again and to be completed by May the 15th. And Scott Adams wrote back and, well, actually, Stephen wrote back first and said, were there any guidelines for what we would like the audit to include? And meanwhile, Scott Adams wrote back and said that Public Works would try to accommodate us, but they couldn't give any assurances, and any further communications with Public Works were to be addressed through Scott Adams. And so I replied to Scott, and Margaret had made the suggestion that Stephen McFadgen could contact the province and see what they use for their audit or what guidelines the province, like the provincial government, uses for their buildings, and that would be a good starting point for Stephen. But anyway, I wrote that to Scott and I left that with Scott. So Sharon, all you can do each month, if you would, is just send an email to Scott Adams and ask him if there's any update that he'd like to share with the task force. That's what I do with Ramona, who's the manager of the sustainable and environmental.
I'm not sure if I have the right email because I'm getting nothing back. So maybe Joanne, do you have his email? And could you forward it to me?
For sure.
Just so I know it's him,
Yeah,
you know.
and maybe I'd make the suggestion, like, introduce yourself as the liaison person for the task force and let him know that you'll be contacting him on a monthly basis for any updates that he wants to share with us.
Yes, I did that last month. I think I've contacted him 4 times now, and I'm just having some difficulty with getting a response. So I understand this is, like you said, he's under a lot of different things going on. I'm just wanting to know for sure I have the right email and stuff.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And moving on, do we have a Parks and Recreation report?
Nope, Nancy didn't have anything she wanted to bring up with us, so she's got nothing. I got nothing.
Okay. It's not quite a Parks and Recreation time with all the winter, that's for sure. And how about police?
No report from the police department.
Okay. And sustainability.
No report from sustainability.
Okay. Cycling PEI.
Joanne, has there been any, I'm only asking you because I know you're in touch with Ramona sometimes, updates on any of the motions that we forwarded? Nothing whatsoever in the last few months.
Nope. But I
No.
could specifically for next month, that's a good suggestion, is send her the motions and ask for an update. The last update I gave you, I think, was November or December on that. And basically what she told me was that everything they applied for last year, they were going to apply for again this year. And by that, I think she meant like the deadline for the provincial active transportation funding back then was December 3rd, if I remember that right. And she assumed that the city would be applying for that funding again. Now, last time, yeah, I'll just back up here. Last time Richard had asked for more information, particularly about how our task force had worked with bike friendly Charlottetown. So I dug out, I called a brief because there were maps attached to it, and the proposal by Mitch Underhay, or sorry, Mitch, anyway, attached to it. So it was dated November 14th of 2020. And in that, we had identified 6 projects for a priority. And one of those was the Grafton Street one, leading to the Great Trail, the Confederation Trail. The second one was another one was the Nassau Street one, leading to Ravenwood Drive at the research station. Another one was the bypass AT lane, which is being worked on and done. Another one was a route in Sherwood going up Maple Avenue to Montgomery Drive and then down to Towers Road. And the 5th one was the Queen Elizabeth Drive project, leading along Queen Elizabeth Drive to Colonel Gray by way of Carriage Lane. And the 6th one was Orlebar Park to the Confederation Trail, that really included just moving the chain link fence and putting in crushed gravel there. I can put those, abbreviate them. I gave it to you pretty abbreviated, but I can put those back in the minutes. So it's sort of on your radar that those were projects that we as a task force with BFC had recommended. But all I know is the biggest priority one that we had at that time, other than the active transportation by the Riverside Drive, was the Grafton Street one. And Mayor Brown told us that that didn't get done this fall because Scott Adams was on paternity leave. And so that was put on hold, but should be.
What about the Towers Road one? Or was that?
I don't know. Did anybody watch See, council does stuff like in special meetings, so I don't know. If we had a councilor here tonight, we'd know, but does anybody know if anything went ahead?
Haven't heard anything yet. Actually, that would be a good segue into what Ryan asked about cycling PEI. I met today with them. I met with Mark and Jordan, and they seem like very nice fellows. And just explained what the council did, and that we'd like them to meet with us at some point if they wanted to present some things. They were up for that, and I said it would be great if they're doing anything to let us know, so we can see if there's anything that we've identified that maybe could line up. And yeah, they just seem like a good bunch of fellas to deal with, very easy to talk to, and very agreeable.
That's great that you went out of your way to meet with them, Jason. Mark or Jordan's last name, do you have them at the top of your head or anything?
Yeah, let me see here. Mark Weeks.
Yes.
Jordan Bobber. So Jordan's the executive director.
Okay.
And what did Mark say his position was? Carrie, do you know what Mark's position is with the organization?
I'm not actually sure. Sorry, I can't help you.
I'll find out his position, but
that's fairly new.
Yeah, I think well, Jordan's the actual hire, like the actual in office, and then Mark would, I guess, would sit on their board.
And Bobber, Bobber.
It is Bobber.
Thank you.
They said there's a newsletter that they're going to come out with soon, and I said for them to tag our info at theactivecity.ca, and that way we would all get the newsletter.
Great.
Is that all for cycling and PEI? Anything else?
Pretty much. They're open to meeting our council anytime. So if we ever want to fill in a guest, and probably within not too much notice, I think they would be willing to meet with us and speak. So if that comes up soon and we don't have anybody from the city to come in,
it might be good. It might be good to do it in like June, July, or August, considering those are very cycling times. I think I don't know what our schedule is, but it might be good to fit them in around that time.
Sure.
And do we have a report for bike friendly Charlottetown?
I don't really have many updates on that front this month. More things in the works on the projects you know about, and some might be coming up. I just thought of something while I have the floor. Joanne, if you're talking to Ramona, something else that should be on our radar is the federal funding has been announced for active transportation capital projects, meaning there's a big pool of money that they could use for the projects we've identified that don't get funded provincially or in other ways. And I'm sure that's on her radar, but it might be nice to see if she would like us to look at potential projects again, or, you know, like which ones might be good for this fund, or do you know what I mean? Just to.
I do.
Yeah.
Because I remember last year when I attended that Winter Congress virtual world Winter Congress biking from all over, and one of the guest speakers was Andy Fillmore from Halifax, who is also the secretariat to the Minister of Transportation, the federal Minister of Transportation. And Andy had previously announced 2 big pots of money for active transportation. And he said he would be announcing a 3rd pot, which that was in February. And it seems to me in April or sometime in 2021, he did announce another big pot of money. And Ramona said she was right on top of it, like she was making proposals for that. And but anyway, I can jog her memory and ask her if she's had any response for that, or where it is with that. Is that
this is a new, well, I'm not sure
one?
which one she would have been doing. This one has not had a date announced yet. I'm looking at it right now. It's called Active Transportation Fund, and it's got 400 million over 5 years in the pot. Yeah, and they don't have a date on it yet. They have all the information of how to apply, so I'm sure she's aware of this. But this seems to be a new pot, maybe. Maybe it's the 3rd one that you mentioned.
Well, we'll ask.
Is it for the whole country?
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, I feel like as PEI, we kind of, you know, like being such like a whole province, but a small province, we might have some advantages. They like to, you know, federally, they seem to like to give us things. I just mean we're not a huge province competing with like other municipalities and that sort of thing. So maybe it would be a good.
Well,
maybe that's
like,
just
what would you have to have your pitch down of what you needed it for, and then pitch it to them basically?
Yeah. So I'm sure she's aware, and on top of that, I just was wondering,
Okay.
you know, if there's more money, maybe they'd be able to get money to do more things if they would like us to.
Well, it possibly could be some brainstorming sessions of what we could use it for. If there's projects that need to be more examined, kind of thing.
Well, like I said, back a year ago in November of 2020, we identified those 6 projects. But also at that time, Mitch Underhay brought additional projects to us that we as a committee had prioritized for another year or for later on down the road. I think there was like 3 phases or 3 years, but obviously these aren't all going to get done in 1 year. And but there were more attached to that report. And Carrie, that report, the original report that Mitch Underhay brought to us, you had posted it on Teams, and it's the 4th file down, and it's 2020, and then there's an 11, and then there's a 10, and then there's a BFC Charlottetown 2021 priorities. But the whole, all the maps were posted on that. And you had modified it November 14th, 2020, when you posted it. So even though my particular brief wasn't on there, but I did send the email, Mitch's original proposal to us was on that. Anyway, I will contact Ramona and mention all that again, or for the first time, and just ask her is that referring to the one from the spring of 2021, or is this new money? You said there's no date to it, so it sounds like there's new money in addition to what was announced last year.
It was announced last week, I believe.
Oh, good.
February 10th, yeah. No, actually, no, sorry. This was, okay. It was announced a year ago, according to this website, but it hasn't gone into motion yet. There's no date for deadlines for applying.
Okay.
Joanne, when you mentioned the Grafton Streets project, which was meant to go ahead, but Scott was on paternity leave, is that funded, or do they need money for that?
Good question. It was in the Charlottetown budget.
Okay.
In 2021. So it was supposed to be done in the fall of 2021. But you're right, Richard, it had to go back into this budget for 2022. And Ramona was on top of that, and that was going in again. She did mention that.
Okay.
And the mayor mentioned it as well. No, very good point. And Carrie, another thing, you asked me about the motions that we put forward, like an update from Ramona. Well, some of those motions went to the different department heads because under the new terms of operating for the task force, if a motion has something to do with Parks and Rec, or if a motion has to do with Public Works, it goes to that department head. So like I sent them all to Ramona, but she sent me emails back saying it went here, it went here, it went there. But I could go back to the minutes, because I have them, and contact those department heads. Or tell you what I could do is send the motion to each person, like Sharon or Richard or myself, and ask us to send them the motion, and then they could take the motion and send it to the department head and ask them if there's been any further action on it.
That would be handy from my end, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to follow up on these. It's been a few months, and to see if there's been any movement. I just want to say I might have been giving you guys outdated information on this fund, so I'm just doing a little Google search in the background here just to make sure I didn't point you to the wrong one. But I'll let you know if I get an update.
Yeah, Carrie, I'm pretty sure what you're referring to is the third one that if you Google, what did I say his name was? Fillmore, Andy Fillmore's announcement 2021. Like I said, there were already the two that had come out as of February 2021. And then that third one came out, he promised, and it was announced that spring. But anyway, we'll ask Ramona what's going on with that. Because the thing is, we make recommendations and then to the city on what we think are priorities. And the city decides what's a priority, or the ENS committee decides what they think is priority. And then the city decides what is a priority to be funded for active transportation. But meanwhile, the province also, as you know, has an active transportation committee. And the city applies to the province as well, either to partner with some of those projects or to do some of those projects. And they also try to access the federal dollars too, the province and the city. So like there's 3 funding partners.
Yes, I think my we are talking about the one in the same fund that was announced last year. I think the newer announcement that I saw was that they were adding what's called the Zero Emission Transit Fund, which is to do with public transit, and the Rural Transit Fund. And they're bundling those 3 funds with the active transportation one together. And that was the announcement that I saw. I thought it was a new fund. It's not, from what I'm seeing now. So sorry for the confusion there.
Not a bit. So the Zero Emission Transit Fund, and what was the other one?
It's called Rural Transit Solutions Fund.
Well, again, I think I'm making an assumption here, but I've gotten the impression that Ramona Doyle works quite closely with Mike Cassidy, because the transit for Charlottetown, they have the contract to run it, right? So that money, again, I believe Sustainable Department of the city would be trying to access that money to operate the transit funds, at least the one for the city anyway.
And I am seeing that the federal funds are accepting applications until March 31st. So they are currently open. That was the announcement. They were opening those funds for applications. I'm all set now. I should have done that research before the meeting, but.
Oh, no, that's all right.
There we go.
Federal funds can be accessed or can be applied for until March 31st, 2022. Okay, I'll send her an email and ask what's going on with that. Did Bike Friendly Charlottetown hire any announcements yet? Like who their new people are or anything?
We have hired 2 positions, they're contract positions, for an outreach officer and a communications officer. And that's specifically to do with our outreach and advocacy project, which is funded by the Provincial AT Fund. And they're great. We haven't made the official announcement yet, so I won't share that yet. I'll just check with the team first. But yeah, so progress is happening there, and there should be lots coming from that side of things over especially the summer months.
And is Mitch working as the CEO of BFC?
He is, he's our executive director. It's not a salary position, but he is also working on a contract for this specific project as the project manager.
Right. Okay, do we have any new business?
I was vaguely wondering if we're planning on moving in person at any point, but it's just a point of curiosity.
I'd say I'm in provincial government, and I know they're starting to position themselves for moving back in. And I think with a date of kind of like mid-April for people to be
Okay.
back in the office. So I would probably go with what government's doing and maybe mirror that. So maybe an April meeting might be good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, or May, maybe May. Who knows?
We could even do a socially distanced barbecue if it's warm enough.
Yes. But barbecue would be good. Yeah. And so do we have a date or any plans on like some of the guests? Like, do we have one next week guaranteed, or is it we're just kind of waiting on them to see if we fit their schedule?
So March meeting is during March break. So to have young families or whatever, we don't have anybody scheduled for that. So April, we have Scott Adams, and May, we have Ramona Doyle. But
Okay.
next March, we don't have anybody scheduled.
Should we,
Okay.
like we prepared for Scott with questions, should we do the same for Ramona? Or, I mean, Ramona used to come, like we have a slightly closer relationship with her.
Yeah.
But if we have Scott coming to April, we'll have to do our questions for Ramona in March at our next meeting, if we were going to do the same.
I think it would be helpful to do questions. I'm sure things have changed in a year. I mean, she'll come prepared, like I said, but it's good, some of our old stuff, like some of the stuff you were asking about tonight, Carrie, like I'll send her an email and ask her what the latest is, but maybe she'll have more to share in May as well. So yeah, so maybe next month you're suggesting that we come with questions for environment and sustainability.
Perhaps, yeah, if that
That'd be good.
makes sense.
Sure.
Questions in March for the May meeting. Now, she's always open as well to any suggestions for Bike Week. Like I said, generally Bike Week is in June. She'll tell us in May, but if anybody wants to make any suggestions for Bike Week, you can bring those to the March meeting as well, and we can pass those along.
Okay.
A thought on Bike Week, and I'm not sure of the history around it and why it's in June. I wondered about it being earlier, or if there was particular reason due to engagement or whatnot. Does anybody know anything about that?
We talked about just amongst ourselves, just about moving it to the fall or having it earlier, but
I remember it in August. In my mind, I remember it in August.
I don't know. It seems to me she had reasoning why it had to be in June.
I wonder if it's got
Okay.
to do with the fact that the roads are nicely cleared by then. I mean, by the time the snow melts, there's always gunk on the by the sidewalk edge, and that's gone sort of by May. So the roads will look pretty good by June, and they'll be beginning to patch them and stuff like that. Maybe, I'm guessing.
Well, we can put it on the list of questions to ask her.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, Margaret, will you do the minutes for March? You had originally volunteered. Does that still work for you, the March meeting? her circle's going around. I don't know if she can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Oh, thanks, Margaret.
And with that being said, I think that's it. I guess we can endure the meeting adjournment. We can close the meeting unless anybody's got anything else. No? Okay, well, the meeting has been adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see
Bye.
everyone.
Good
Thank you.
night.
See ya.
Thanks.
All right.